Hello and welcome to the Comedian's Paradise. This is the comedy podcast where we speak to the most damaged and mentally unstable people across the whole entire world. No, no, I'm only kidding. I'm only kidding. That's the worst way to start it off. No, uh, no, this is the Comedian's Paradise. This is where we spoke to a lot of fascinating and amazing people from across the comedy world that are mentally damaged. No,
They are mentally damaged, man. It's fine. You can say that. Like they're all deranged,
there is something that
clumsy
makes us tick.
individuals.
Yeah. But we talked to the most amazing and fascinating people from across the comedy world that will
Hmm.
help comedians like you and me live the comedy journey on our own terms. And I am at the moment in the Edinburgh Fringe, getting exhausted and having a mind go all over the place. It is a great festival, but yeah, when the numbers are low, it can piss the shit out of you, even if you do have a good show. The Edinburgh Fringe is mad, but I'm coming all the way there. And yeah, this we got a special guest for you. We got a guy who is the Tony Soprano, the Godfather. No, we got a man who's absolutely amazing, a G, a gangster of the comedy world, of comedy club promoting in Bangalore, India, Chennai, everywhere. He's a comedy club promoter extraordinaire called Namit Jain. You're going to absolutely love him. He's got insights that will surprise you. He's an absolutely remarkable man. Please say hello to Namit Jain.
Hey, hi guys, hello.
What did you make
So
of the intro? It was a bit, it was something.
it was something. I was like, hey man, this sounds like every open mic, like you go to and you wish you weren't there.
The roaster started already.
You're
How's
like,
the
oh
podcast
man,
going?
like, and you see the host hyping you up, and you're like, oh fuck, man, my set, it stinks. Why is this host hyping me up so much? What if I bomb now? Because you see, as comics for you, the entire world is an open mic. Even at every conversation, have you noticed this, Marvin? Has this happened to you? That you're in general talking to people and you suddenly start pitching jokes.
What when you're chatting to people? I mean, but that's
Like you're just having a regular conversation with someone who's not even related to comedy. Like it's a friend of yours outside the world of comedy, or it's a relative of yours.
but I think
Uh,
that's part of the reason why we get into comedy. A lot of us.
yeah,
Well,
like
some of us, we're addicted to the laughs. Other people get into
exactly.
comedy because they're failed actors or failed musicians, or
Yeah.
they want to be a presenter, or they go in it. They weren't the funny people, but they're still not quite there.
Hmm, hmm.
Do you get that?
One sec. Yeah, yeah. The most Indian thing happened to me. My mother called me in the middle of the podcast.
What did she say?
No, no. I mean, I cut the call because I cannot take the call right now. Because I know with her the conversation is gonna be really long. She's gonna ask me about my day, then what did I eat and all of that, and then she'll ask me about my plans for tomorrow. So which I have absolutely no clue about, by the way.
That's
I'm like, I'll
exactly
figure out tomorrow once I get up tomorrow.
that's exactly like my mum. That's
Yeah,
the one thing that the Indians and Orientals and Asians share in common, I suppose.
just ha man.
Same conversation again and again. But it is a funny thing, though, that the funniest people that I know are probably my Asian relatives, more so than anyone else. My mum is a lot funnier than I am when she wants to be.
Huh. Well, I mean that also is because maybe because of the variety of experience they've had over the years, the kind of transitions they've seen, the amount of cultures they've experienced, and the times they've been in. I mean, see, I've realized this that with age, if you're not getting funnier, then maybe you're pursuing comedy wrong. Because with age, you should get funnier. A lot of times, what happens in our industry is that with age, people get irrelevant. Whereas it should be the other way around. Like, look at all of the legends who have been in the world of comedy, be it Bob Hope or Bob Newhart or George Carlin. They all got funnier with age. So,
I think two things to that is because they give less of a shit, and they also got more scars, more fucked up things that they've done wrong, I suppose.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, well, that's with age you get funnier. So I've always realized this, that people who are older than you, if they have like even the slightest of sense of humor, they will have more jokes than you have, just by the virtue of the fact that they have experienced more life than you. They've seen more shit than you. In fact, this annoys me a lot whenever I'm hosting open mics and all, wherein I see like some 20-year-old kid coming and doing like that preachy brand of comedy, wherein they're talking about the LGBTQIA movement, and they're talking about gender identities, and they're talking about immigrant crisis. And you look at them like, bro, you're 20. You're 20. You have not stepped out of your state like more than twice in your entire life. You're yet to travel, you're yet to see the world, you're yet to have a real job. Like, talk about stuff that you have experienced and you can understand. Don't take like, don't make a comedy set of out of like, some five headlines you read on Guardian.
That is even probably bigger in here. I'm surprised that it's a big issue in India, to be honest. I
Mm.
thought that it wouldn't be as big an issue in India as it is in here.
It's and it gets annoying. You literally have to like, go and tell them that, was, see, you talk about things that you know. You talk about hooking up, you talk about girlfriends, you talk about your last relationship, you talk about your college, you talk about your career choices, you talk about your family, you talk about your upbringing, you talk about shit that you know. You don't like just make uninformed decisions about things that you have absolutely no idea about, because what happens is then they eventually end up being insensitive to the issue, and then they get into trouble. And when they get into trouble, suddenly they're like, oh, comedians can't even crack jokes. And it's like, no, man, it's not like you cannot crack jokes. The issue is that it was not a joke that you cracked, it was an uninformed statement you made. There's a big difference. If it was funny, people would have still loved it. It wasn't even funny and it was uninformed. Why wasn't it funny? Because you're yet to become that kind of a comedian who can pull off a joke on an issue like this. You have not done this enough to you have not mastered the craft enough to be able to like, write jokes about a topic of this kind. And secondly, you don't even know much about it. So you've got nothing going on for you, neither the craft nor the knowledge.
But yeah, I hear that from a lot of new comics. Like they've only done 10 gigs and they say they're
Uh,
this and that comic. And the alarm bells go in my head and say, no, you're going to comedy what you think you are. But when you do it enough, you realize that you're not that. You
mm,
only find out what you are after being, well, having comedy take the soul from you for a bit, and then you figure
yeah.
out what you are. Now, my comedy is completely anti-comedy, a bit like Andy Kaufman. Um, it's comedy that I definitely wouldn't choose to do, but for whatever case is, what gets the laugh is I play the idiot on stage. It doesn't work for everyone, but that's what I tend to do that gets the big laughs. And you can't choose that. It's just the way it is. You want to do this and that, but it doesn't work like that. Like comedy is not where you can choose to be this or that. It's not like a video game character where you can customize it to, to fit what you want.
Yeah, oh, this is working out these days, let me do this. Doesn't work out.
It's yeah, you see a lot of that, but people do things because they want to get the fame or they want to
Yeah.
feel good. And what you said there about someone talking about migrant issues or whatever, like, oh, it makes you look good on stage, well done. Oh, it makes you
Mm.
look good in your peers, but you just annoy people as well because what are you doing to support the claim? There's no good virtue signaling and say you're a nice person. Well done, but you're not doing anything. You just
Yeah.
annoy people.
No,
And
and the thing is, it's not even funny. My biggest concern is still with the fact, like, that if you're doing it, then do it right. Make it funny. You're not making it funny. You're giving a TED talk in the name of comedy. Like it's 5 minutes of preaching with like two jokes in it. And and just because like, those two jokes got you like big applauses and people were like, wow, so insightful and all. Yeah, it's great, but it's still not comedy.
yeah. But that's a big thing, isn't it? People see great comics like George Carlin or Richard Pryor, and
Uh,
they think, "Oh,
uh,
I'm smarter. I'm better than everyone else. I know
mm,
I'm special, and I'm going to be able to do something that took them years to do."
mm. Oh man, yeah. So, Marvin, tell me this: are you just a comic, or do you also like produce shows and run a club
Both,
there? What's the scene?
both. And I think
Both.
with in the UK, especially with the way things are, because it's getting so and so competitive, and more people coming in, as well as America, and the
Hmm.
money being so low, like big clubs can pay very little, and people are so desperate to get on them, and like
Hmm.
to make a full time living from comedy. Oof, I think that you need a big audience, or you probably got to be a
Hmm.
comedy promoter and a comedian to make a
Hmm.
good living. That's in comedy now, unless
Hmm.
it's just the way it is at the moment.
I mean, I'll be honest, and I'll still say that it's still better than how it is in India. Because in India, in order to make a full-time living as just a comedian, you just need to be famous. Like in India, club gigs don't pay only. Like I run a club, okay. I can only pay comics who are doing solos or double bills. I can never pay comics who are doing lineup shows. Because if I start paying comics for lineup shows, then I'll eventually end up making nothing.
Yeah, but yeah, well, there's a bit. It seems to be a. What do you feel sometimes? Do comics get annoyed with you for doing that, or do they? Do you get a lot of animosity from them?
No, 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 no. That's just how it has been. In fact, with me, I've kind of been at least a game changer in the city, wherein I have been able to guarantee the local comics regular stage time because we do two open mics every day at the club.
Every
Okay, like
day.
every day we do two open mics every day at the club, and we are able to pull some crowd.
No.
Yeah, so they are just those comics in general with me are just happy that at least this guy is guaranteeing us regular stage time where we can workshop our material. And when it comes to solo shows and all, also with if they are working with me, they make more money than they make anywhere else when it comes to their solo shows and all. Because I try to promote their solo shows at the club level also. Even if they don't have a pull, I use my club's pull to get audience for them.
Hmm.
It's just that the lineup shows you cannot pay because there are too many mouths to feed in a lineup show. And if you feed everyone, then you'll not be left with anything for yourself. And the problem is that in the lineup shows, the club is doing all the marketing when it comes to selling the show. In fact, a lot of times when you're promoting a lineup show, when you're running Instagram promotions for it, you're getting the posters printed and all of that, you're sending out WhatsApp blasts, you basically end up spending almost everything you make in promotions only.
Do you, so you Now there's a big thing. A lot of comedy promoters stay away from Facebook promoting or Instagram promoting ads because they feel a lot of times they don't work, they get in the groups or they do other things. What are your
Hmm.
thoughts on like Facebook and Instagram promoting?
Instagram promotions work, man. Instagram promotions work big time. You should just know how to do it. If you don't know how to do it, there are people who can help you out. There are experts who can help you out. Talk to them. Talk to people who are experts at digital marketing. They will teach you how to choose the right audience, choose the right budget, choose the right timings. But Instagram promotions work, and I can tell you this because I sell most of my open mic and local lineup tickets using Instagram promotions.
Do- How much does it usually cost though, as a whole?
It That's the thing. See, a lot of times I only sell tickets worth $2,000, and I after spending like say $2,000. Okay, but the thing is that it's still better than not having a show na that day at the club.
What One thing I would like to ask you on this, what have you found when you're seeking an expert's help on helping your comedy club is a sign that someone knows what they're talking about and what's the sign that they don't?
No, see, I mean, I've only seeked an expert's help when it came to digital marketing. When it comes to operations, you have to figure your own thing because every comedy club is different, every setup is different, every place has its own dynamics. But experts' help is needed in things that, like, see, I know how to set up a comedy club. I know my tech really well. I know my sound really well. I know my layout really well. I have three rooms in the same comedy club, 150-seater and two 150-seaters. Okay, so I know what tech works for which comic. In fact, I calibrate the sound, I calibrate the light also as per the comic who's doing a show there that day. All right. So all that I know, my operations I know end to end. It's primarily the digital marketing wherein I actually sat down and I took an expert's help with search engine optimization, with Instagram ads, with WhatsApp blasts, with making the right creatives, with writing the right writing the right show descriptions, because everything cumulatively forms your digital marketing strategy. And once you crack that, once you're able to do that, that's when you start selling tickets for your club. Because see, what's important to sustain a comedy club in any country in the world is building an audience for comedy, building an audience for the craft, not building an audience for the comic. Because see, a famous comic can pull tickets anywhere. A famous comic can put a show in the most obscure corner of the world, like like Bill Burr can put a show in some obscure corner of Texas countryside, and he'll still sell out there. Okay, but how a club would sustain is if you are able to build a culture for people just turning up for comedy shows, people just starting to love local comedians as a proposition. So that is where we have taken our club to now, that we have like our bunch of we have close to a 150 200 regular customers who just drop in randomly, and they are just comedy fans. They're not fans of any particular comic, they are just comedy fans. So developing that pool of audience is very important, and then that helps us sell shows of local comedians also. Because anytime like any local comedian puts up a solo show, or any even a traveling comedian who's not like really famous and still is very indie, comes to the club, he's touring with his special and puts a show, he gets help from that audience, because he sells like say maybe 10 tickets on his own, and we sell another 10 tickets for him. Because our club regulars, they just see a new face on the poster and they're like, oh, it's happening at the club, let's go check this guy out.
Yeah. But so it's all about, yeah, but that's one of the things that give perhaps a comedy club an advantage over a comic. Because unless you're super, super big, I know a few comedians that with big followings in the UK, and their
Hmm.
earnings are still quite low. Whilst with the big comedy clubs, their earnings are massive. Like they're
Hmm.
earning the millions. But
Hmm.
comedians with maybe 100,000 or 50,000 are only just about
Hmm.
earning enough to make a full-time living in comedy. Whilst the comedy
Hmm.
clubs with that sort of following are doing brilliantly.
Nee, because the thing is, those are legacy comedy clubs also. Na? See, comedy as an art form back in the US and in the UK goes back by decades. Comedy club in India is a fairly new phenomenon. I mean, Bangalore's oldest comedy club shut down 3 years back after running for 4 years because it ran into losses. And that had also opened like some 7 years back. That's just how old this comedy club culture is in the country. So for us, it will take a really long time to get to a point wherein comedy club in itself is a sustainable business. Most of the comedy clubs currently in the country are running in losses. In
What?
fact, I would go ahead and say that we were one of the fastest comedy clubs in the country to reach break even so soon. And we did that primarily because of the volume of shows we are doing. Because we do two open mics a day. Then over a weekend, we do like around 10 to 12 shows every weekend. So it's the strength in numbers, it's the economies of scale that we are going after. That when you do, like, say, when you put together some 20 odd events in a week, even if five of them go well, you're sorted.
Okay. And you learn
So
quicker.
you learn quicker. And another reason that now we are doing reasonably well is because we, for our day-to-day running, we are not dependent on famous comics. For our day-to-day running, we know that we as a club sell tickets. And it took us a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of hard work to get there.
Yeah. And that's more dependable because if a famous comic drops out, then that will affect your
Then
branding.
yeah, then you lose the show for that day. Na? Day-to-day running is not possible only with just having famous comics on the lineup. I mean, it does give us the necessary spike as and when we need, but in terms of sustenance, you really need to be self-sustainable.
It's cheating in a way, isn't it? To just depend on that all the time for every show.
That is how the comedy clubs in this country failed. Na? Why? The reason that the like some of the most prominent comedy clubs in India who were like doing, matlab, if you look at like if you look at it superficially, it would seem that they were doing really well, but they eventually went bankrupt. The reason for that was this only, that they were only depending on famous comics to drop in and do shows. And it is not sustainable because famous comics cannot keep pulling crowd for you week after week. They will do it as a favor for 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, at the most 10 years. After that, you have to work a model you have to get to a place where you're self-sustainable. So why not work on it from day one?
Hmm. And then it adds even more to what you already have. Yeah.
Yeah.
One, but one of the things that I want to get to, and I want to ask you on this again, is I find that very interesting when you talk about talking to experts, helping you understand things that you don't know. And I believe fully in that. But one of the things is, especially with like life coaching and a lot of digital markets, especially in the West, a lot of them are charlatans. Not all of them are really useful. And what would you say is a sign that you look for to see that someone is legit going to give you good advice and help you do the job,
uh,
rather than someone that is a charlatan that seems like they're good but is hopeless?
Someone who's in the industry, someone who's doing it for others, like the person whom I reached out to for help in digital marketing. See, one thing that worked in my favor is that that person is a really good friend of mine. We are college batchmates. Okay, so I know, I mean, he's a brother, he's not going to give me bad advice. So that was one thing. Another thing is that, that proves his credibility is that he is doing digital marketing as a profession. He's not a coach, he is a digital marketer. He doesn't give digital marketing seminars, he actually does digital marketing. And he has sustained as a freelancer in the industry for like 8 years, which speaks volumes, because you cannot sustain in this industry as a freelancer for 8 years if you have not delivered results to your client, if you have not given them return on investments.
Hmm.
So he understands the game, he knows what it takes. And that is why I knew that if he's telling me to do something, I should just close my eyes and do it. And I did it, and the results were as expected. We got what we wanted, and we still are. I still once in a while, send him my Instagram ad insights and all. I screenshot and I send it across to him. I'm like, what do you think? And he tells me that this can be improved, this can be improved, this can be improved, this can be improved. For this, do this, for this, do that. So, and that really helps, man. That really helps. In fact, that entire effort we put into, having a decent digital presence is also why we sell tickets regularly now.
Hmm.
And then see, it's also I feel that the team that you have with you, like the boys who run the club with me, there's a bunch of boys. There is a boy named Sachin, then there is Gokul, then there is Vishal, then there is Vivek, Harish. So on certain days wherein, like, say, we don't have the expected amount of online ticket sales, these guys and me, we just stand down and we bark till we at least get 50% of the room full.
Hmm.
So we always have a plan B in place. We know that our thing is as simple as this, that we have to have a show.
Hmm.
Come what may, we are not canceling our show. If we have not been able to sell tickets online, we'll get the host on the stage and we'll start barking. And while the host does like the upfront 10, 15 minutes, we will try to fill up the room as much as possible.
Yeah. And it's amazing, especially like in 10 minutes before the show, or like you just fly someone, that some of them will actually just come in. Oh, okay.
Yeah, we've become very used to that system. My boys have become great at it. I am usually so busy running the backend operations and all of that I'm not able to help them with the barking, but they have become amazing at it. Like 15 minutes you give them on a day where the street is busy, and they'll fill up the room for you.
That's true. Now, did you always start off as being a comedy promoter, or was it something that you fell into?
I fell into, man, honestly. I never thought I'll end up being a comedy promoter or someone who's running a comedy club. It's just that when I started doing comedy, I was already running a couple of business ventures, and which were doing reasonably well. So I always had a knack for business. I always understood P&Ls. I always understood uh, uh, how to make a business sustainable. So I think it just came naturally to me. Like, people reached out to me, they asked me, Namit, can you make this work? And I'm like, I think I can, and I did. So So it just I like you said, I fell into it. I never consciously wanted to do it. It just happened that, I was approached by people to do it and I was good at it. Otherwise, when I started doing comedy, I just wanted to be a comic. That's all.
Do you still do that, or would you say you're just more of a promoter now and you don't do as much comedy anymore?
No, I'm still more of a comic. I'm still more of a comic. I run a club, and I run maybe a club with the highest amount of footfalls in South India. But and then definitely a club with the highest amount of footfalls in a huge city like Bangalore. But I'm still more of a comic. I
Okay.
am a comic who's also a producer. I'm not a producer who's also a comic.
And what would you say is the manner in which you were able to? So how were you able to? What was the question I want to ask? Yeah. So how does what what do you look for in terms of acts? Like, how can you detect if someone's a good fit for your audience and are going to do well, and how can you tell if someone's not? And also, how does how do comedy promoting and being a comedian go hand in hand with each other?
See, I completely keep the comic in me away when I'm making decisions as a producer. Okay, because when I'm making decisions as a producer, the only thing I look at is whether it's the only thing I look at is the financial permeability of the show. Because see, as a producer, I have understood one thing, that art is subjective. All right, what I might find like, hilarious, a lot of people might not, and what I might find like absolutely boring, a lot of people might love it. So I keep my own personal judgment completely out of the equation whenever I am booking gigs. My only thing is whether this comic can pull in a certain amount of crowd, and whether with our help we can, he or she can fill up the room. That's all. That's all I look at. It's simple, because see, if a comic has like some pull, like say if a comic can sell 150 tickets, a comic can fill up my 150 seater. All right. It doesn't mean squat whether, I like his comedy or I like her comedy or not. That comic can fill up the room. That comic can sell tickets. So there are clearly people who find that person funny. Whether I find that person funny or unfunny is absolutely irrelevant. So whenever I am booking gigs, I completely keep like that, that critique, that how should I put it? That comedian's analysis away from that comic's material. Because as long as the comic has got a pull and has got people who love them and are gonna buy tickets to watch him or her live, I'm more than happy to host them at my club. I'm super objective about it, because art is subjective. We need to understand this. Okay, like, not like someone like someone like Daniel Sloss is not everyone's cup of tea. All right, some people find him hilariously funny, while my girlfriend slept halfway through the special. Okay, so it is that, because she doesn't appreciate dark humor much. Her kind of comedy is more she loves Ali Wong.
Hmm.
Okay, and I find Ali Wong a little over the top. But if like say if like say I was running a club big enough, I would be as happy to host Ali Wong as I will be to host Daniel Sloss, because both of them have people who love them. Both of them have people who love their comedy. Both of them have a huge number of fans, and both of them will give me a show which will be financially sustainable. And that's the only thing I'm looking at. As a comedy producer, you have to turn off the comic inside you.
Have you booked any big English comics in India?
I've not booked many. Matlab at my club, the only big English comic that has come so far is Alana Gabriel
Okay.
from uh, from Australia. I think she's from Australia, but she's currently active in the Germany circuit.
Okay.
Yeah. So she sold out. She sold 150 tickets on a Thursday. Can you imagine?
Effectively, yeah. It's all about like the value proposition. As a comic,
Mm,
you should be
mm.
thinking about what value you can give
Uh,
someone else rather than what value
See, that's the
you
thing.
can
As a
take.
comedy producer, I think you just need to have two objectives. As a comedy producer, I mean, as an ethical comedy producer, you only need to have two objectives. First, ensuring that the show is financially sustainable, the club doesn't go into losses. Second, make as much money for the comedian as possible whom you're producing. Because at the end of the day, it's the comedian's show, it's the comedian's art, it's the comedian's fans, it's the comedian's audience. So they are the ones who should make the most out of that show. And so those are the only two things I ensure at every show I take up. That I just want to make sure that we get what we are owed and the comedian makes as much money as possible.
Yeah,
That's it. I try to keep the overheads at the bare minimum. I run a very tight ship with P&Ls. And that's why a lot of comedians who have worked with me in the past continue to work with me because they make more money playing my club than they make anywhere else.
yeah.
Hmm.
It's But is there a limit to what you would tolerate from comics, even if they are good? Like if they create a terrible atmosphere at your club, or if they're pain in the neck, or if they don't do well with the audiences you have.
See, I just have three rules at the club for any comic. Okay. If you're bombing, get off early. Simple. If you're bombing, at least don't overtime. If you're bombing, stick to your spot to the T. You're only allowed to take a minute extra if you're killing really hard.
Yeah,
Okay, that's one. Second rule is be respectful to the audience. Do not make personal remarks. If you see that an audience member is getting offended, read the room and calibrate your material accordingly. Because while you might want to do the material you want to do, you have to read the room and you have to make sure that if it's an open mic or a lineup show, you don't end up ruining the room for others because you also have that responsibility. There are other comics in this line. And third rule is very simple: be respectful to the staff. That's it. And then the basic stuff: turn up on time. All right, turn up like 10 minutes prior to the show time. All right, uh, and go through a proper system that I have created for spots. Like, don't ask me directly, ask the system who, like, ask the person whom I have designated the curation to, and only ask him for spots. Like, don't try to jump the line. Uh, and yeah, man. Other than that, it's fairly simple. I mean, and yeah, like you said, don't be an asshole. Yeah, don't be an asshole. Like if a big comic has come to the club, respect their privacy. Don't intrude. Don't ask for selfies. Don't fucking eat their head before the show. Oh, how do you go about your comedy? Motherfucker, he doesn't want to talk to you. He's just being polite.
yeah,
A lot of comics do that. I'm sure you would have also noticed it, that if you're hosting a big comic at your club or if you're producing a show for a big comic anywhere, all right, in the green room, if you let a micer in, most micers are nice people, but some micers are just anal. Okay, they'll just drop in and they think that they are entitled to chewing off the head of the main performer right before his show. And most of the big comics, they are nice people, they are polite because they've been through the grind. They outright don't say no to these people, but you also know it's affecting them. They need to focus right now. They have a big show coming up. They have to be on the stage for 80 minutes, 90 minutes straight and deliver. Nothing should be like taking their eye off the ball right now. So that is another thing I tell people not to do. I'm like, don't bother comics right before their 1 hour show. Let them have their moment of peace. That's why I've got like a very nice designated green room in the club, which is only accessible to people who are doing solo shows,
okay,
so that they can just sit in peace without being bothered by anyone.
okay. And what about yeah, what's been a mad example you've encountered that's the reverse of what you want? Don't say the comic's name or like anything, but what's been a situation where you're like, what the hell's going on here? What's been a mad moment?
Like while during an open mic or during a show, you're saying.
Show open mic. What's a mad thing that a comedian has done to you that you question?
During a, well, there are so many of them, man. There are so many of them. There is this comic from Bangalore. He's one of the most seasoned comics uh, in the city. Okay, but I don't know. That day he was just like somehow his fuse was off, and he got like the worst audience ever. Okay, bunch of hecklers, and all of them sitting in the front row. And for a moment he was trying to engage in a conversation with them, but he was not able to. And that day he was off his game. Also, he was not able to give the right rebuttals with jokes. So at one point in time, he just became like a professor, and he started, "Shut the fuck up! Shut the fuck up! I'm asking you to shut the fuck up. Will you shut the fuck up?" And I'm like, dude, what the fuck? You're not supposed to do that. If you cannot reply with humor, get off the stage, bring the next act on. They will deal with the heckler. Call me on, I'll deal with the heckler. But you cannot say shut the fuck up to the audience. So that was one very wild moment. And in fact, I ended up banning that comedian from the club for like a couple of weeks. I'm like, dude, you've got like a lot of issues, work on them. Once you've got your head like in the right space, then come back. But just take a break. Then there's another idiot comedian who used to come frequently at the club, who was subconsciously lifting jokes from everyone.
Oh,
Yeah, like it reached a point wherein we had to make him sit out of the room when other comics were performing. I'm like, you do not get to watch anyone perform, because we had subconsciously seen him lifting so many jokes. Like he lifted two or three of my lines. Uh, and because he was a good kid and he said that he'll not do it again and all of that, we gave him a few chances because he used to help out with the club also. But eventually it reached a point wherein comics started becoming averse to coming to the club when he was performing, because they were scared that their jokes might get stolen. So a couple of weeks back, I did an open poll. I'm like, guys, are you uncomfortable with this guy being on the same lineup as you are, because you are worried about your jokes being stolen? And a bunch of them replied saying yes. And so that's why I had to ban this guy off for a month. Okay, you take a break, work on your shit, come write like a few write like a new 5 7 minutes, and then come back. So let's see after a month if he comes back, does he have fresh material? Because if he again starts doing it, this time I've told him that only one instance and then you're banned for good. I'll never let you inside the club.
oh. I reckon he'll do.
Yeah.
I reckon
Huh?
he'll play nice for a bit, and I reckon he'll still try and push it once he's got your.
He has already tried to, but this time he knows that if he tries to push it again, uh yeah, he'll be out. That much he
Oh,
knows me, and that much I've made clear to him also. So, and there's another crazy thing that happened, man. Oh, how can I forget that? Uh, there was this one idiot comic who got drunk. One micer. Okay, it's a micer. It's not even a comic. Like he has just been, because see, in Bangalore we follow this clear distinction that if you have been at it for like more than a couple of years, then you're a comic. If you have just done like say some 20 open mics in a year, you're still a micer. You're not exactly a comic. You're just someone who's hitting open mics. Don't call yourself a comic. Okay, because a comic also I feel is a tag that you have earned, because a comic means that you're at least an amateur.
yeah.
After 20 mics, you're not even an amateur. After 20 mics, you're someone who can still quit it. So, this idiot bugger, cocky as hell. He thinks like after 10 mics, he thought he was gonna be like the next Carlin or something. Okay. And one day he turns up to the club drunk. And I had already banned him for turning up late to mics. He had turned up at three of the mics completely drunk. So I told him that, uh, uh, like you're banned for a month and all. So he came that day at the club to apologize to me, and he was drunk out of his wits. And that day I have like a pretty big artist dropping in from Delhi to do two trial shows at the club. Okay, he had sold out the small room twice, and he's sitting in the green room. And this guy, when I'm talking to the headliner for the night, barges into the green room, man. He barges into the green room. I'm like, dude, you're not supposed to at least fucking knock. Like this guy, he over here, he's a legit celebrity. He deserves a knock. I'm not saying you're not allowed to talk to him or anything. He deserves a knock. And then after his show got over, Okay, audience was leaving and all. I escorted this guy back to the green room. I hear suddenly someone speaking on the mic. Hi, ladies and gentlemen, my name is blah blah blah, and I would like to do a few jokes in front of you. It is someone else's show. That guy has ended the show, and this guy, while the audience is leaving, suddenly picked up the mic and wanted to do some jokes for his audience at his show without taking his consent.
And what happened?
Nothing. I called the bouncers, they threw him out. I mean, that was the only thing left to do. I'm like, I called the bouncer, I'm like, I throw this guy out of the gate. And after that, that guy tried to reach out to me so many times. In fact, it reached a point wherein one day he called me and he's like, Namit, I don't think you should be gatekeeping open mics at a club. I'm like, I'm not doing any gatekeeping, man. You're not allowed because you are a piece of shit. You behave like an absolute asshole. You picked up the mic without asking anyone at someone else's show in front of someone else's audience. And what you did that way was beyond unprofessional. And then also you breached the privacy of the green room. What if that artist was changing?
Hmm.
I mean, there are certain protocols that you have to follow. If you don't follow them, you're a piece of shit. So I'm not. So he actually accused me that Namit, you're gatekeeping open mics. This is not done. I'm like, I'm not gatekeeping open mics. You're not allowed because you're an asshole. Otherwise, everyone's allowed.
Yeah, that's a bit. Yeah.
That's a bit too much, man. I know. And imagine how traumatizing it would be for me to fucking deal with it. Because the audience is also looking at him, they are like, what the heck? Because see, the audience is a little taken aback. Audience in general are like really nice people. If someone asks them to stop, they stop. They actually stop to see what this guy had got to say. And then within 5 seconds, they could make out that he was completely inebriated. Like he was at a point he would have gagged on the stage.
Yeah, it's
So
hard to get some
yeah,
people
man.
off.
Yeah.
Now, who are like real amazing comics in the Bangalore comedy scene that you were like, they're incredible, they're awesome, and what have been some amazing moments where comedian, what have been magical moments at the club?
Magical moments at a club. Uh, okay. See, one magical moment that I'll remember, it includes me, is that there's a comic named Karthik Kumar who dropped into the club, and he's a Tamil comic. He does comedy in Tamil, which is a completely different language. And I opened for him, and I did like close to 8 minutes, and I was very skeptical because his family is primarily family audience and all of that. And I somehow ended up doing my most scathing material while opening for him,
Hmm.
and it fucking worked. I could see, like, people in their 50s and 60s actually laughing at my dick cunt jokes, which is something I didn't expect his audience to get. That day, I just did it because it was muscle memory. I was tired after travel, and I just couldn't think of any other set to do. So I did what came naturally to me. But when they actually applauded at those jokes, that was magical because this is a hardcore traditional family regional language comedy crowd, and I'm doing filthy jokes in English, and they're loving it. So that was one really really magical moment. And other than that, mm, other than that, like we have a lot of these moments, yeah, wherein at open mics, one day one comic has his day and people are like completely blown away, and they are like, oh shit, man, this is better than anything I've seen in my life. And the guy is still a no-name comic from the local circuit. This happens a lot of times because sometimes a comic just has his day. And some of the Bangalore comics have also become, they've reached that point wherein you can put them at par with a lot of Indian comics who are now doing international tours. In fact, I know that a lot of Bangalore comics, if on a lineup show, can give a lot of big names in the industry uh, a hard time if they are on the same lineup, because they have the potential to maybe on certain days kill much harder.
Oh,
Yep, yep. Because see, it's the work ethic. It's the work ethic. And honestly, I think again, this is I'm saying purely from a comedian's perspective, that the true judgment of your material is actually at open mics. Okay, because over there the audience is neutral. They are not fanboying or fangirling over anyone. So if you have a packed room for an open mic, like say if you got like 40 people for an open mic, that day is the true test of your material, because that day a lot of famous comics also drop into the club and eat shit. Whereas the same jokes, if they're doing in front of their audience, they will get like in 7 minutes they'll get seven applause breaks.
Hmm.
So the real test of your material is in front of a neutral audience, people who don't know you. They are the best judge of like what your material is truly worth, because people who are already your fans, they love more or less anything you say. No, like people, like see, Bill Burr is one of the geniuses of our time. All right, but we'll all be lying if we say that that some of Bill Burr's jokes in his last special, The Paper Tiger, were not repetitive.
He's, yeah, because we already like him and we've got a perception that he's good, he has it much easier. Yeah.
He has it much easier because he actually repeated a lot of premises he just extended from his last special, about a lot of premises about feminism. Those were basically extensions of his last special, if you come to think of it. And if it was like, say, a newer comic, we will not be this forgiving.
Yeah.
We'll be like, hey man, till when are you gonna like, keep harping the old tune, come up with something new? But because it's Bill Burr, we're like, man, it's Bill Burr.
Who who would you say uh comics that you'd like to have at your club, and who are comics in Bangalore, like big name comics that you really admire?
In
And
Bangalore, we don't have any big names, to be honest, because from Bangalore, everyone who made it big moved to Bombay.
so who has been a comedian in Bangalore that's made it big and made it to Mum Bombay, and who?
Has so many of them, man. Kanan Gill started in Bangalore. I'm sure you know Kanan Gill.
No, I don't. But I don't know.
You don't know Kanan Gill? Oh
Comics.
man, you have to watch his
I don't
special.
know.
But see, from Bangalore, Kanan Gill is one comic who has really, really made it big. He already has like a couple of specials out, one on Amazon Prime, one on Netflix. And his last special, I think he released it for 3, 4 days on a different website, and it was only live for 3 days.
Okay, and who?
Okay, so
Yeah.
Kanan is currently, I think, one of the best writers in India. He's like a cut above the rest. You can say that. When it comes to English comics, he may be the best writer in the country right now.
And what about the who's a big who's a big one coming up that you think is going to be a big star?
Oh, there's this girl named Shrija Chaturvedi. Shrija Chaturvedi. Her observations are out of this world, man. She is phenomenal.
And what would you say is yeah, what is the who forgotten? Yeah, what advice would you give to comedians that are listening now that want to, if you,
Man, I mean, the only advice I can give to anyone who's pursuing this as a career is that you decide what's success for you. It's as simple as that. If you let others decide what's success for you, then you're in a world of pain. You decide what you want to do. Like I have made peace with the fact that I'm happy being a club comic. I'm happy being a club runner. I am not looking to get famous anytime soon. Because I have my goal from comedy was, because I come from like a small town and I don't have like a lot of how should I put it, like a lot of uh, inherited money lying around. So my first goal when I started doing comedy was to make it sustainable, to make it cover my life expenses. So I have reached that point by running a club and by doing corporate shows and by uh, uh, by hustling hard. So for me, this is success. For me, I'm in a good place. I'm in a happy place.
hmm,
So you decide what is success for you in this field. Like say if you're a comic who doesn't sell out auditoriums or who doesn't sell out clubs but gets a lot of corporate shows, gets a lot of private gigs, That's also a form of success, because there are a lot of comics who are selling out auditoriums but are not getting corporate shows
Hmm.
because they don't have the right material for it, or they don't have the right image for it. So you decide what's success for you, and you find your tribe, and you perform for your tribe. You write jokes for them.
Hmm.
Okay, eventually, because it's your tribe that's gonna stay with you. So even if, like, say, at times you're bombing at open mics, okay, but you have a feeling that this joke will relate with your tribe. Maybe one day that you get a good recording, put it out and see if it resonates with the kind of people you want to, resonate it with. And if it does, then you've found your niche. So while open mics matter, and while your content should cover like a wide spectrum of audience, it's absolutely okay if your jokes don't make sense to everyone. It's absolutely fine. You don't have to please everyone. You're not in a business wherein you can please everyone. So, I think because that is one place where a lot of comics get stuck, that I am not destroying as hard as this comic regularly at open mics. And I'm like, yeah, fine. Yeah, it's okay, it's chill. I mean, are your jokes making sense to people whom you're targeting to be your audience?
Yeah.
So, I think that's one, because again, like, killing at open mic matters. It matters. It establishes you as a comic. It puts your name out in the circuit. But it's also not the end of the world. For perhaps a club comic like me, who's only sustaining doing club gigs, it might be the end of the world for me. If I bomb at an open mic, I feel like shit, because that's the only thing I'm doing other than corporate gigs. But if you're someone who's also an Instagrammer, who's making funny reels on Instagram, and is able to pull in crowd for stand-up comedy through that, go for it, man. No stress.
Yeah.
Don't let people tell you, hey, you're an influencer, you can't do comedy. They can cock up. You're selling tickets. You have found your audience. You have found your fan base. Your jokes make them laugh. Your content brings happiness in their life. Stick with it. Do not listen to naysayers, because that is one problem I think the comedy circuit around the world has, that they have a lot of naysayers. Oh, he's success. Like, have you noticed this, Marvin? I'm sure you would have noticed this in your circuit as well, that whenever someone becomes successful, there are people trying to justify their success.
Oh,
That, oh, he is successful because he does this, or oh, she's successful because she does that. Does it really matter?
yeah.
As long as they got there by working hard, does it really matter?
No.
So yeah.
Now, for anyone that's listening now and they're like, Namit Jain, he's awesome guy. We want to find out about you. How do they find out about you? Do they find out about you in, I don't know, in a hostel? Do they find out about you in like Twitter, Instagram, Reel?
I'm not very active on any of the social media handles, to be honest. But yeah, I keep uploading some stuff on Instagram every now and then. On Instagram, you can find me at the rate Nightclub Comic. So I'm called Nightclub Comic on Instagram.
Okay. And
So
what about the comedy club and like,
it's called Just BLR Comedy Club. JUST BLR is short for Bangalore. Just BLR Comedy Club. So you can find the comedy club on Instagram by that name. Instagram is the only social media platform that me and the club actively use. So whatever updates you need to find regarding the club, or regarding me, you'll find them on Instagram only, because I have given up on Facebook. I've given up on Twitter. I mean, Twitter is not Twitter anymore. Twitter is X. So uh, Instagram is where you can find all the details.
okay. So people listening in, you know where to find about Namit. If you're in it, Bangalore, you know the comedy club you need to go to. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. Make sure you subscribe it, share it with your friends, give it a 5-star review on Amazon and iTunes. And yeah, I'll see you at the next episode. The next comedian I'm likely to be talking to is a comedian from Wales. But I'll see you guys soon. I know I've been a... Yeah, I'll see you guys soon. Take care.